Imagine your local gas station suddenly charging an extra 25 cents per gallon, and the ripple effect reducing your neighborhood spending by up to 8%. This isn't just a number, it's a wake-up call that global energy shifts can hit your wallet hard. For families already working hard to balance their budgets, these increases aren't just statistics, they represent real financial strain that affects everything from commuting to grocery shopping. In this video, we'll explore how global policy decisions, often made thousands of miles away, have a direct impact on the stability of everyday life. Stay tuned as we unpack the intricate relationship between international energy markets and your daily expenses, revealing why even the smallest changes on the global stage can alter the economic landscape right at your doorstep. Chapter 1: The onset of the trade war and Canada's retaliatory response. Our story begins with the Trump administration's aggressive trade policies. In an effort to protect American industries, the U.S. government imposed heavy tariffs on imports from key allies including Canada. With bilateral trade exceeding $683 billion last year, these tariffs targeted sectors such as steel, aluminum, beef, and dairy, sometimes reaching rates as high as 25%. For example, imagine you run a small manufacturing business in Toronto. You rely on raw materials imported from across the border. Overnight, the cost of these essential inputs jumps by 20 to 30% because of the new tariffs. As a result, you're forced to increase your product prices, and your loyal customers suddenly face higher bills. The impact of these tariffs wasn't confined to large corporations. It touched every corner of the economy, from small business owners to families managing their weekly grocery expenses. As Dr. Fatih Birol, Executive Director, International Energy Agency (IEA), had stated, energy is a linchpin of economic prosperity, with energy security, reliability, and affordability key preconditions for sustainable growth. Canada's response was swift. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government denounced the tariffs as unjustified. He stated, "We are US's closest ally. Our economies are integrated. Canadian steel and aluminum is used in a number of key American industries, whether it's defense, shipbuilding, manufacturing, energy, automotive. Together we make North America more competitive," and immediately initiated a series of retaliatory measures. Canada imposed counter tariffs on U.S. exports covering goods like steel, aluminum, and agricultural products to assert its economic independence. These measures, while a strong political statement, also meant that Canadian consumers would soon see the cost of everyday items rise. In essence, the trade war wasn't just a policy dispute, it was a battle with real consequences for families and local businesses on both sides of the border. Chapter 2: The Strategic Minerals Alliance and the EU Pivot. As the trade conflict intensified, Canada began plotting for a more secure economic future. Recognizing the vulnerability of over-reliance on U.S. markets, Ottawa sought to diversify its trade relationships by forging a strategic alliance with the European Union. This alliance centers on securing access to critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, resources vital for electric vehicle batteries, renewable energy technologies, and modern electronics. By partnering with the EU, Canada aims to reduce its dependence on China and build a more resilient, diversified supply chain. For everyday consumers, this has promising implications. Secure and stable access to these minerals could stabilize battery prices, potentially lowering the cost of electric vehicles, a welcome development for families considering a greener mode of transport. Furthermore, the creation of new supply chains is likely to spur job growth in mining, processing, and advanced manufacturing sectors. This could lead to increased employment opportunities and a boost in local economies, with projections suggesting that the global market for these critical minerals might reach $770 billion by 2040. This strategic pivot not only enhances economic security, but also offers tangible benefits to communities in Canada and across Europe. Ultimately, the shift promises fewer price shocks at the pump and more predictable utility bills for households, along with a healthier job market. Chapter 3: The Controversial 100% Tariff on Tesla Electric Vehicles. In a bold and controversial move, Canada's government, supported by the New Democratic Party (NDP), proposed a 100% tariff on Tesla electric vehicles. This measure is not simply a retaliatory tactic, it's a strategic attempt to protect and promote a domestic electric vehicle (EV) industry by making imported vehicles less competitive. Imagine planning to purchase a sleek, high-tech electric car, only to find that the price has doubled overnight due to the tariff. For many potential buyers, this would mean rethinking their long-term transportation plans. The measure is intended to encourage the growth of local EV manufacturing, but it comes with a steep price tag. Automakers, including Tesla, rely on imported parts often from China to keep production costs down. If tariffs are applied to both vehicles and the parts they depend on, production costs could rise sharply, slowing down the rollout of new EV models. The implications extend to the entire North American EV market. Rising costs mean that families might face higher monthly car payments, forcing them to adjust their budgets. Moreover, delays in production and the increased financial burden could lead to slower adoption of electric vehicles, undermining broader environmental goals. Projections suggest that such tariffs could increase vehicle prices by 15 to 25% over the next several years, potentially risking up to 81,000 jobs in the automotive supply chain. In the end, while the policy aims to bolster domestic industry, it may also create a challenging environment for consumers who dream of owning a cost-effective, eco-friendly car. Chapter 4. The broader impact on the North American electric vehicle market. Beyond the immediate controversy over Tesla, the tariff policies are poised to disrupt the entire North American electric vehicle market. With tariffs pushing up production costs, automakers ranging from Ford to General Motors and even emerging domestic brands are likely to pass these increased expenses on to consumers. For the everyday consumer, this could mean a significant increase in the monthly payments for new cars. The rising cost isn't limited to vehicles alone. As manufacturers face supply chain disruptions and delays in receiving essential components, new model rollouts might be postponed, reducing consumer choice and dampening the excitement around clean transportation innovations. The economic ripple effect of these challenges is profound. When production costs soar, related industries such as parts suppliers, service centers, and even local dealerships suffer as well. Job losses in these sectors could become a reality, affecting local economies and community stability. Additionally, a slowdown in electric vehicle adoption could hinder regional efforts to reduce carbon emissions, impacting public health and local air quality. In short, what started as a high-level policy dispute is now influencing the daily decisions of families, from budgeting for transportation to planning for a greener future. Analysts warn that if these trends persist, overall EV adoption rates could drop by as much as 20%, further destabilizing an already challenging market.
Consumers are probably going to have to pay higher prices, and they may even have a lower range of choices at the store because some things just become too expensive to bother importing. Christopher Meissner, Professor of Economics at UC Davis. Chapter 5. The Domestic Boycott of American Goods and Its Societal Impact. In reaction to the escalating trade war and provocative comments suggesting Canada might one day be the 51st state, Canadians have rallied together in a powerful grassroots movement, a nationwide boycott of American goods. This boycott isn't merely a symbolic act of national pride. It's a concerted effort to protect the domestic economy and assert Canada's economic independence. Across the country, shoppers are increasingly turning to Canadian-made products. In local supermarkets and retail outlets, the shelves are now stocked with goods produced domestically rather than imported from the U.S. This shift supports local businesses and stimulates regional job growth. However, the boycott also comes with challenges. In areas where American products once dominated, consumers might experience reduced variety and potentially higher prices as supply chains are restructured. Tourism, too, has taken a hit. U.S. states like Florida, California, and Texas, traditionally popular with Canadian visitors, are reporting declines in revenue as fewer Canadians cross the border. With more than 20 million Canadians traveling to the United States annually, even a modest drop in this figure could result in billions of dollars in lost income for local economies. The boycott's economic impact is multifaceted. While it boosts domestic production and reinforces national pride, it also introduces market uncertainties that could lead to higher prices and reduced consumer confidence. Ultimately, the boycott underscores the intertwined nature of international trade and daily life, where political decisions have immediate and visible effects on supermarket shelves and vacation plans. Chapter 6. The Looming Energy Crisis and Its Impact on Everyday Life. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this economic standoff is the threat of an energy crisis. Canada, a major supplier of crude oil to the United States, has signaled that it might use its energy exports as a bargaining chip in this trade dispute. With the U.S. relying on Canada for more than half of its imported oil, any reduction in supply could trigger dramatic price spikes at the pump. Imagine driving to work and suddenly encountering a 30% increase in gasoline prices. For American families, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a significant financial burden. Higher fuel costs would ripple through the economy, affecting everything from the price of goods at the grocery store to the cost of running public transportation. Small businesses that depend on efficient logistics would also feel the strain, potentially leading to reduced hours or even job cuts. Historical data suggests that even a modest 10% drop in Canadian oil exports can result in a 25 cents per gallon increase in retail gas prices. In regions where energy is a major expense, such shocks can reduce overall consumer spending by 5 to 8%. For households already struggling to make ends meet, the economic pressure would be acute. In essence, the potential energy crisis serves as a stark reminder that global policy decisions can directly affect the stability of everyday life, from the amount you pay for fuel to the health of local economies. Chapter 7. China's strategic shift and the global energy realignment. Complicating matters further is China's strategic pivot away from U.S. oil imports. In recent years, China has actively reduced its reliance on American crude by seeking more affordable supplies from countries like Russia, Iran, and Venezuela. This shift not only undermines the U.S. energy sector by cutting off a major export market but also challenges America's long-standing position in global energy politics. For communities dependent on the energy sector, the implications are serious, with U.S. oil exports to China dropping by nearly 25%. Domestic oil companies face the dual pressures of decreased revenue and increased competition. Reduced investments in infrastructure and technology could eventually lead to higher energy costs for consumers. For everyday Americans, this means more expensive fuel, potential job losses in oil extraction and refining, and a less stable energy market overall. The global realignment of energy supply chains signals a future where the simple act of filling up your car might become a daily struggle, an unsettling prospect for families and communities alike. As we conclude this investigation into Canada's bold pivot from the United States toward the European Union, it's clear that the ramifications extend far beyond high-level policy debates. What began as an aggressive trade war has now evolved into a complex crisis affecting everything from the cost of our cars to the price of the fuel we rely on each day. For Canadian businesses and American consumers alike, the ripple effects are profound. Rising production costs, increased tariffs on electric vehicles, a surge in domestic boycotts, and the looming threat of an energy crisis are not just abstract numbers. They represent tangible challenges that can reshape our daily lives. Families might soon see their grocery bills climb, commuting costs soar, and job security dwindle in key sectors. Meanwhile, strategic moves by nations like China add another layer of complexity, reminding us that global energy realignments have direct local consequences.
In today's video, we're diving deep into a growing movement in Canada that's sending shockwaves through the economy. Canadians are ditching American products in response to looming US tariffs, and the impact is already being felt across the nation. Today, we'll explore the origins of this movement, examine the economic statistics behind the trade tensions, and break down what the future might hold for Canada, the US, and North America as a whole. Section 1. The growing movement and what sparked it. Canada is in the midst of a full-scale economic standoff with its biggest trading partner, the United States. While political leaders debate tariffs and trade deals, ordinary Canadians have taken matters into their own hands by changing their shopping habits. At the checkout counter, a quiet revolution is unfolding. The tariff threat that sparked it all. Back in January 2025, US President Donald Trump warned that a 25% tariff on Canadian goods was coming, and estimates suggested these tariffs could cost Canada up to $20 billion annually. A study by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce projected that such tariffs might push food prices up by 10% or more, putting enormous pressure on household budgets across Canada. These tariff threats aren't just abstract numbers. They hit home for everyday Canadians who now worry that items like that $5 bottle of olive oil might soon cost $6 or $7. According to Reuters, US President Trump's actions come amid an overall US trade deficit that hit $773 billion in 2023. With deficits with China and Mexico dominating the numbers, but Canada plays a critical role too. The birth of the Buy Canadian movement. The announcement of the tariffs ignited a grassroots Buy Canadian movement. Social media exploded with images of all Canadian grocery hauls, as Canadians proudly switched from US brands to local alternatives. AEMI International's Pulse study showed that 57% of Canadians would choose domestic products if the price difference wasn't too high. Statistics reveal that for the third consecutive year, the combined value of Canada-US trade has exceeded $1 trillion. To put that into perspective, in November 2024 alone, Canada exported $50.4 billion and imported $42.2 billion from the US, resulting in a positive trade balance of $8.1 billion. More strikingly, 71.4% of Canada's total exports go to the US while 50.4% of its imports come from there. This level of integration is why the tariff threat has spurred such a rapid shift in consumer behavior across the country. For everyday Canadians, the movement means rethinking their daily shopping routines. Imagine walking into your local supermarket and hunting for products proudly marked, "Made in Canada." Grocery shopping now demands extra attention, reading labels, comparing brands, and even checking viral Buy Canadian guides. Families may soon adjust their budgets if prices rise due to tariffs, as even routine items might cost 10% more. Local businesses could see an influx of support, while companies dependent on US imports might face higher costs. These changes aren't only about patriotism, they're about protecting an economy where, according to Statistics Canada, US trade accounts for roughly 17.8% of Canadian GDP and supports more than 2.4 million Canadian jobs. Section 2. The backlash and what's at stake. Escalating tensions and economic tug-of-war. The tariff threat by Trump set off a chain reaction, escalating into an all-out trade conflict. Statistics from the U.S. Census Bureau show that while the U.S. runs a significant trade deficit, with deficits of $295.5 billion with China and $171.8 billion with Mexico in 2024, its deficit with Canada is more complex. In goods, the U.S. recorded a $63.3 billion deficit with Canada, however. When excluding oil and gas, the U.S. actually runs a $30 billion surplus with Canada. These numbers highlight the nuanced trade relationship between the two neighbors. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is preparing retaliatory measures, including imposing 25% tariffs on U.S. goods worth billions of dollars. Reuters reported that Canada's annual merchandise trade surplus with the U.S. was $102.3 billion in 2024. down slightly from $108.3 billion in 2023, a sign that even high-level trade balances are feeling the strain. Complex supply chains and cross-border integration. Over 75% of Canada's exports are destined for the US, meaning that any disruption affects millions of jobs